G'day, community, and welcome to the Jock Reynolds podcast. We're brought to you by Telebeats. You're listening to the music. I've changed the intro up on patch. Everything's going haywire. I also wanted to shout out before we get to it, the great Trigger Happy from the comments on the website. He's started a new band called the Isolators, and they are releasing spoof parody songs, and their first one's AFL related. Check it out in the show notes. But here we are. The Festival of Footy is done, I think. Patch?
I don't know. No, there's still one game. It's Monday. There's still a game of football tonight. It hasn't started yet. The round hasn't finished. We're recording a podcast. This is the Jock Reynolds community podcast, for those of you that have no idea what's happening because Lek has changed the intro. This football has just been endless, and then tomorrow night we will have the long, just slow silence of not football. What did we do before the Festival of Fantasy on weeknights?
I don't know. We may have had loved ones to speak to and hold, but who knows? That could have changed. I guess they can't really go anywhere if they're in Victoria, so you're probably still in with some luck. The Festival of Fantasy is over, but it starts again soon. It's coming back.
Oh boy. It's Festival of Fantasy 2 Electric Boogaloo, where it just gets even crazier. Are you excited?
Let's just take a couple days off before round 13 starts, and then I'll tell you whether I'm excited or not.
Cool.
I think it's a normal round for all intents and purposes this week. However, the rest of the year, it's going to continue being that Supercoach teams or team lineups are only named 24 hours out. So trades are still going to be hard despite it being a normal round. Hooray! Yay. Thank you, AFL. Are you mentally prepared for that to become the norm next year? Because I'm telling you now, it's going to happen.
Oh, I know it is going to be, but the blow when they officially announce it, or it is officially tweeted by Mitch Cleary at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday in November, will crush my soul. But it's going to happen, and it's just the way forward, unlike the NRL, which has its shit together, and it's like, oh, every Tuesday we're announcing all the teams. No, the AFL's like, oh, we're announcing the teams Sunday night for a Monday game because you have Monday footy now. Deal with it. We're already getting worked up, and we haven't even started talking about the games or the Supercoach or the anything. Oh God, Lekdog. Oh God, strap yourself in. So we get more trades. That's the big takeaway. We all get 3 extra trades which we can burn to do whatever the hell we want. We shouldn't burn them because, my God, are we going to need them. We will have premiums being rested left, right and centre, especially from teams looking to make finals. We'll see Brisbane be like, no, Lachie Neale, sit down. You have to have a week off, otherwise you'll injure yourself and won't be able to play in a final. So they will force Stars to take games off. It's just how it's going to work.
So it looks like this. It's round 13. Normal week. Well, I mean, normal. It's got a Monday game in there, but it is a normal week. It's
and the teams will be announced 24 hours before. But yeah, best 22, everyone plays a game. You get a game, you get a game, you get a game. It's kind of as normal as 2020 can be, baby.
Then round 14 is a bye round. It's best 18, 3 trades maximum. First week of head-to-head finals. You'll get an extra trade, I think, added on for that round. Round 15, another bye round, best 18, maximum of 3 trades. Head-to-head has the week off, in the traditional week off in round 15 for Supercoach. Round 16, best 18, max 3 trades, head-to-head week finals 2. Finals week 2. Round 17 is a normal week, if we can look that far ahead, although it's not actually that far away, Patch. It's only like a couple of weeks away, even though it's about 8 rounds away.
What are weeks anyway?
It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
And then round 18 is a normal week where the head-to-head grand final will happen and all of your primos will be rested or put into season-ending surgery.
Yay!
That's the lie of the land, Patch. Now that we know that, we can assess the week that's come and we can assess the way forward for the community. And, well, we can speak generally. We've got what's it, 3 best 18s out of the next 6 weeks. So that says to me one thing, Patch, and it's that we should be targeting, if we weren't already, guns and rookies.
Yes. I mean, there is a bit of scope with mid-prices because the problem with that is like guns and rookies requires rookies. And a lot of people don't have rookies. They've got your Mark Keane sitting on the bench. They've got your Ben Cavara sitting on the bench, who's back suddenly out of nowhere. You've got, people that haven't played since round 6 and will never play again. Cash is a problem. So do you go for best 18 and like try and bring in your really high-scoring Clayton Olivers, your Tom Mitchells, your Christian Petrarcas if you haven't got them? Or do you then try and just do a Hail Mary and put together a team of mid-prices and hope that Connor Rosie decides he wants to start being in form again?
I think you've got to maximise, primos, guns, even if they're underpriced guns or guns that have fallen in price. Guys like Travis Boak, guys like even Jai Simpkin, old class in that, considering his performance this year. You've got to target these guys when you could afford them, because if 50% of the games, let's say you get to full primo, right? Including, let's hypothetically.
Good one. Yeah, okay, in 2026. Hypothetically.
You've got full primo, everyone's playing. You've got a few mid-prices in there that you're counting as a primo. For 50% of the rest of the season, 4 of those players' scores are going to fall out of your best 22. So you should really target that next step up, that upper echelon. I don't think there's as much value now in going with mid-prices, which is a concern because that's my entire team.
Yes. Yes. If you can get to those players, absolutely. But I wouldn't discount looking at, Connor Rosie, Jordan Dawson, these players that will average like 80, but they will have weeks where they score 120 and weeks where they score 40. And you just got to hope that the weeks they score 120 line up with the weeks where the other ones score 40. It's not an ideal strategy, but for a lot of people, they just simply won't have the alternative because the rookie situation this year has been just almost as big a fire heap as the Essendon Football Club has been this year.
Which, by the way, we should probably address it. Damo isn't on the podcast. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see him again soon. And look, we might have exchanged a few words throughout the weekend, and I hated him, he hated me, and now we both agree that Jack Nunes is the son of God. So go Blues. Sorry, Damo, you couldn't be here. We hope to get him back before the end of the year, though, Patch.
No, we don't. I mean, not if we need to, because that would require a discussion about Brayshaw breakout, which I'm not ready to have. He scored 67 on the weekend, and I'm pretending that's his season average.
Yeah, okay, that's a tactic. That's a tactic. I'm pretending Brandon Starcevic's average is 99 then.
Cool.
He's a primo.
I can go with that. It means I have a complete backline. Anyway, let's get into some slightly more detailed discussion. The big bit this week, obviously Sunday night, James Sicily has done his ACL. As much as we go on about him being a flog, him missing a year and a half is terrible for football. It's just bad. There is no good way to look at this. Nobody wins out of James Sicily being out of the game for that long. It's bad. From a Supercoach perspective, Lake Dog, it's also bad.
Yeah, no, it's very bad. For owners who have him, obviously, he's a must-trade, and it's not what you want to see. You don't want to see a guy go down for a year, and we saw with Doherty, they don't always come back, and they're not the same player straight away, and yeah, it's going to be really rough, and we might be talking about him in 2022 as the best buying option ever, but right now, if we've got to face the whole cold hard facts, we need to find some replacements for this man. And, well, at least for those who have gone ham with their trades, we are getting extra trades. So there's a few options, Patch, and your boy, Luke Ryan, has to be at the top of the bunch.
Top of the list. Was very close to bringing him in during the week and went for the Big O instead. And while the Big O did okay, he did kind of what I expected him to do. Luke Ryan scored 162 points, which, in case you're bad at numbers like me, not a lot of points. It is a lot of points. I mean, I'm bad at numbers. I literally just said it. It was in the heading. Yeah, top of the list, had his bye, good at football. Freo are going to have a lot of ball in the back line. It's a no-brainer. No-brainer. Jake Lloyd, if you don't have him, would be the other no-brainer if you can afford him.
Well, yeah, so Sicily to Ryan is going to cost about, I think, 40 or 50 grand now that obviously Sicily's dropped and Ryan will jump. Jake Lloyd, as you said, has had a bye. He's a beast. We all know everything about Jake Lloyd. There's a couple other guys who have already had their bye. Nick Haynes and Zach Williams, a very popular pick. Zach Williams turned up for the third time in a row on the weekend since coming back from injury. Let me just confirm that with my maths. He did. He scored 111, 105, 112 the weeks before. They're probably the four that I've got in my head, but for me, Luke Ryan is easily the pick of the bunch. God, I don't watch Fremantle as closely as I should, Patch, but watching him on the weekend, he was giving up like 10, 15 centimetres to our talls, and he was playing like a big marking, hulking man, and then running around and delivering the ball like Caleb Daniel. What a player!
He was marking Tom Hawkins the other week. Tom Hawkins and Tom was it who was Cleary? Tom Cleary was just cleaned up by him, and Tom Cleary has kilos and centimetres on Luke Ryan, and he somehow, I don't know how he does it, but he's fast becoming one of my favourite players. Get him in. If you are looking for someone a bit cheaper though, if you just simply don't have cash or you need to downgrade so you can upgrade someone else somewhere for some reason, there are a few other cheaper options around. Do you do them? I don't know. It's kind of a bit dicey, but Jackson Thurlow has scored 118 and then 90.
That is not a name I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
Do you want to pick Jackson Thurlow? Probably not, but hey, he's there. He's cheap. He's doing the thing. Dan Houston is still kind of running around midfield-ish. Jordan Dawson is kind of doing the same. They're players you could consider. And there's one other player who I've completely forgotten, slipped out of my mind like a slippery eel. And I will try and remember who that is because they were a good option. Luke McDonald.
Alex Witherden, probably another one as well to discuss.
Yeah. Yes. Luke McDonald is going kind of insane this year. Like the last few weeks, he's just suddenly decided he's going to start scoring lots of points. He's 490k before this week and then scored some more points, so we'll go up a lot more.
There's quite a few of these North. I don't know what's going on at North this year. You got Jamont, you've got McDonald, you've got Jed Anderson, obviously Simpkin. What's going on? They've just had some really Supercoach relevant players, and I think we've probably been too slow to adopt them.
I mean, Davey Zuniak on the weekend only scored the 86, but my God, did he look good. And Matthew Lloyd's come out and said he's the next Chris Judd, which maybe that's an overreaction, but hey, he's on the Supercoach watch list for next year. It does help that North Melbourne have a lot of players that don't score. Like you look at their score from this week, you have Lockie Hosey 36, you've got Mason Wood 16. A bunch of 60s, a bunch of 50s, a lot of players just not scoring, which means those points kind of have to go somewhere. And they go to the top.
One defensive player we'd be remiss to not suggest as a replacement is Tom Stewart. Obviously, there's some bye issues and some rest issues there, but played another good game, hit the ton, 103. His price is going to be around, 480k? Can't do maths easily, shouldn't try and do maths off the top of my head, but he's another cheapy option to look at.
Indeed. I think that basically covers the backline. We've mentioned all of the players that exist that play in the backline.
I just wanted to quickly touch on, there was a couple more injuries over the weekend. So as we move into the midfield patch, because I think you're right, we're done with defence. Sam Simpson, he is a trade if you haven't already traded him. He's had a hammy strain, so he pulled up sore during that game, and it was obvious he was a trade when it happened. Was that this week or last week? Times stand still.
This round it happened. It happened this round. Friday.
Okay.
Is today
I believe
Monday?
you.
I don't know. Today's, I think, Monday. Means you can, depending on how he goes tonight, do the dream trade of Simpson to Flanders, which would make my dreams come true, really.
God, that's a fun trade to execute on. Tom Hutchison, who was the rookie for GWS, he is injured. I don't think we'll see him again this year. And Tim English, there's some question marks. I know he's a ruckman, but there's a few Supercoach relevant players that have come under injury clouds, and Elliot Yeo owners would be very sad because he was a late out. So there's quite a few injuries to work around, Patch. It's not a great time for it, I'll be honest.
No, and it'll only get worse. Get ready, everyone. Yeah, Yo sounds like he's got some sort of long-term thing as well, which you just love to hear. Love to see when he's in your Supercoach midfield, because it's probably a trade. I heard the words osteitis pubis mentioned with Elliot Yo's name in a sentence.
I thought they cured osteitis pubis. Haven't heard about that for years.
Yeah, that's because Joe Danaher has that many other ailments that it doesn't matter that he's still got osteitis pubis. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore. I genuinely don't know. He could just be Mr. Burns, where they all cancel each other out. But I'm not a doctor.
It's an interesting one. Anyway, let's talk midfield, Patch, because there is some value and maybe some rookies. Maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, Jack Bartel will play. He might not score well. You don't want him on field, but hey, he's a player that exists. Josh Honey played for Carlton. How did Honey go?
Pretty much unsighted, to be honest. I suspect he'll stay in the side. I wouldn't be trading him in.
Fair enough. You heard it here first from somebody that watched the game. Yeah, that's about it. Zach Reed?
Zach Foot.
And the
he did
Reed.
Debut. Once again, we're not really naming many midfielders. Oh, actually, he's a midfielder, isn't he? So forward mid.
Yeah, forward mid. Zach Foot.
Nick Reed is a forward, but these are really the only rookies that kind of still super cheap and or debuted on the weekend. Not confident on many of them. Foot's probably the pick of the bunch. But if you've got a downgrade, I think Zach Foot's the one, and I say that with zero confidence.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney are playing the kids. He's probably sitting in Elijah Taylor's role, and Taylor obviously won't be back after that suspension. Yeah, but there are players that are at the other end of that spectrum in the midfield that you'd want to be bringing in if you could. Who are some of those players?
Well, I think if we're looking at midfield guns, if we're looking at best 18 caliber players, Luke Parker, for me, from Sydney Swans, has had his bye. He's not going to be player that they rest. He racks them up. He scored 127 on the weekend. I think he's always amongst the top scorers come the end of the year for total points, and he's someone I'm looking at as a really good target who's not in a lot of teams. He's in under 5,000 teams, and he's good at Supercoach. I mean, I hate to say it, I hate to use the age-old adage, but he's averaging 106 this year. The yo-yo went the other way this year, and he is playing very well.
He is indeed. He's playing very well. Gnigliog, I know I've been reticent to suggest him recently, but the Giants need to win every game from here on out. Unlikely to be rested, you'd think. Can go massive, which we've seen before, and if he drops a bad game, drops out of your best 18. It's a win-win. And I think he's a good selection at the 550, 560k he's sitting at.
Yeah, so he was 554 going into the round and only scored 95 with a break-even of 99, so he'll drop to about 550. I hazard that guess. Look, he's an upside player. He is one of these best 18 gambles because he can pump out huge scores. Has only done it once this year with a 141. He's had an underrated Supercoach year, I think. He's dropped 3 games below 100. One was a 49. But he has the skill and the explosiveness and the influence to go big and pump out those scores of... Well, we've seen him score 200s. Is he the midfielder you'd be going from GWS, Patch? Like, I know he's cheaper than a Josh Kelly, but would you not rather a Josh Kelly?
I have a Josh Kelly, and I'm very happy having him over as Stephen Gnigliog. Josh Kelly is slightly more expensive, which makes it a bit harder to bring him in. But if you've got the cash around, if you've got the $630,000 to lose, go to Kelly. My goodness, go to Kelly. Tom Mitchell is a bit cheaper than that, scored 130 odd on the weekend, just racks the football up, and that won't change despite Hawthorn playing the kids for the rest of the year. He's a very viable option. Is Paddy Cripps a viable option, do you reckon? He scored some points on the weekend. He's still cheap.
He did. He had 20 contested possessions and went about 6% by foot. Scored 119. Is he a viable option? He's another one of these guys where the upside is there and the downside is low enough that he can fall out of your best 18. And if you wanted to get adventurous, take a look at Sam Walsh, who's fast becoming our most consistent player in that side, which is a worry because he's only 20.
Sam Walsh, a very good pick. I was tossing up between him and Cripps when I'd traded Cripps in, and I kind of wish I'd gone with Walsh now. But anyway, much ado about muchness. Shall we swing into the forward line unless there's anyone? Oh, there are cheap options, cheaper options in the midfield for those that are keen on it. I like James Rowbottom in the midfield.
Oh, interesting. Go on.
I just think he's very good at football. He's playing that JPK role with JPK out of the side at 400k heading into the round with a break-even of 56. He scored 104. He's a mid-forward swing. I just think he's a good footballer. I just really rate him. Should average 100 odd on the way home and be consistent enough to be in that best 18 here and there. Like, he's not going to be scoring 160s all that often, but hey, I just think he's good.
I just think he's really neat. That's an interesting one. I've seen a little bit of Twitter hype starting about the old Robum. Not one that I'd heavily considered. He is a cheapy option. We already sort of talked about Simpkin and Travis Boak. I really think if you don't have Travis Boak, people should get Travis Boak.
Yeah, he does have a bye to come, which does hurt if you're pushing for rank. But if you're going for league, then just get it. May as well get him in. Just fire away. Shall we swing forward? Do you reckon? Because there's a rather big forward. There's a big elephant in the room here. Tom Hawkins, Select Dog. Tom Hawkins.
The big Hawkins. What a man. What a man. Can't help but think that Port Adelaide probably do have... I saw some people point this out on Twitter. Probably do have a better defensive plan than nothing. And just didn't want to show it yet. But gee whiz, he dominated. 204 points, 6 goals to Patch. It was like he was the only man out there.
It was like watching a kid from the under-16s playing in the under-12s. It was just insane. I haven't seen a game like that where a key forward is taken it by the scruff of the neck in the time I've been alive, or so I keep being told by old people who were alive in the 80s and liked football then. But no, it was incredible, and we've spoken about it off-air a few times this year of just like, why don't we consider Tom Hawkins? He's kind of good. And he doesn't miss games and is always in the top for like points scored at the end of the year, and now he scored 204 and had a break-even of 60, was at 500k going in. God knows what he'll be at. I'm not even going to try and do the maths, but he's coming off 115, 126 and 204. If you can bring Tom Hawkins in, should you bring Tom Hawkins in?
Yeah, it's a
They play Adelaide next week.
Well, he could kick 200 goals next week. They may have to change the scoring structure for Supercoach moving forward.
He could score all 3,300 points on offer next week. But long term, do you bring him in?
I guess the fear, he's been good. He's been good for weeks now. I guess the fear is he's going to jump to about 565k off the back of this. He's currently 500 grand. That's maybe there's no value left. Having said that, he's still going to go up in price. He's going to go north of 600k, courtesy Bryce Mitchell on Twitter. I mean, I like him as a selection. He's always amongst, as we said, the top total points, and I don't think enough people put enough emphasis on total points when they're picking their teams at the start of the year. He's always up there. Now, the fear is, prior to this year, and maybe even last year, Josh Kennedy was always at the top of total points. So one day when it drops off, it's going to drop off. But right now, he's not putting a foot wrong.
We've got 6 weeks left too. Like Geelong are going to keep going. They've got a bye to come, and that's the week off if you're in leagues. Citation needed on that. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's got the big bye that everyone has, where it doesn't matter if you're in leagues, and you're not going to be trying to make cash out of him anyway. It's not like you're going to be trading him out later on because no one's got any trades left. I think it sounds really obvious to be like, oh, hey, yeah, he scored 200. He's the player to bring in, but he's the player to bring in if you can afford him.
Yeah, this isn't a case of you chase the car, you get exhausted. This is a man who's in some serious form. 126 last week, 115 before that, a string of 80 pluses, 120, 152. He's only had he's had 2 sub 80 games. One was a 79, and then a bunch of high ceiling games. You are chasing points a little bit, but guess what? Even though he's going to gain 65 grand, he's still going to generate some value for you and some points. I like it, Patch.
Yep, I think you could do a lot worse, by which I mean Michael Walters, who's now suddenly a permanent forward because Brayshaw Breakout lives in the midfield now.
I think that was always the fear, wasn't it?
It was, and people that jumped on with him coming straight back, I was very hesitant to look at that. You'd want to have a look at him first, and people that didn't have a look at him first would have been disappointed with him dropping where is he on the list? 60. Long way down that list for where you'd normally find the name M. Walters. Was very well defended by Plowman when he was down there. Plowman is having a very good year, but I would hope to see a bit more out of Walters, even with a good Plowman on him. I guess he's just electric enough in the forward line. The conditions weren't good. You can make as many excuses, but he's not scoring the way you want him to. Yeah, and that's the bottom line. You just that's the facts of the matter, and kind of how you look at it. Are there any other players in the forward line that are worth considering as players that exist?
Oh, there's plenty of players that exist. Is there any I'm considering? The forward line is a tough one. People who bought in Big O or Peter Laddams, or these are the sort of names we're talking about in the forward line, and I'm not filled with confidence just suggesting any of them, to be honest with you.
No, it's just the forward line has always been a just gaping black hole of just misery, and to this day it remains that.
Well, we did get a question on Twitter about this from V8SC Opinion. Why is it so hard to have a full forward line this year? Backs and mids have been relatively easy given the primo price tips we bought low and sold high on. And I think it just goes to the inconsistency of the forward line for the most part. It goes towards a lot of the players we used to lock into our forward lines got moved into the midfield only status. And old reliables like Robbie Gray and Josh Kennedy have had up and down seasons. They're in some form at the moment, although Robbie Gray didn't score well on the weekend. It's just, I think inconsistency is the key there. There's no obvious forwards outside of sort of your Petrarcas, your Whitfields, your Martins and your Brayshaws.
And for the people that have jumped on Bailey Smith and then jumped back off, you just got to hold them, really. Like Smith and Simpkin and some of these middling players that have been in and out of form, they'll dip back into form, and you probably should just hold them because the alternatives they're not great. The alternatives, because unless you've got that Brayshaw, Greenwood, Martin, you get 4 of the top 6, and then suddenly you're like, oh, where's the rest of the value? And you're like, well, it's just bad everywhere.
I feel like the quality of forward rookies as well was pretty low this year, particularly with the way that they tend to generate cash. Popular starting selections like Devon Smith. Don't know if it was a role change, but something just misfired there.
Being bad. Just Essendon being bad.
You get a couple of those rookies wrong, you get a Devon Smith wrong, you miss out on a Dan Butler, and suddenly it's really hard to catch up on that particular line. I think we'll be able to get there by the end of the year, but it's going to require jumping on some of these cheapish picks like Simpkin, etc.
Yeah.
So that's
I am, as I've mentioned a few times, I am very closely watching Connor Rosie, and this, he's 288k or 289k. The second he pumps out a good score, I'm on. He's been injured, he's been carrying a heel niggle basically all year, and Porter finally got to the stage where like, no, we're just going to rest him until he's back. Just get him right, because he's a good player and he'll be good in finals. And as we saw, rounds 1 and 2, 125, 145, when he scores well. Keep an eye on, but don't trade him in yet. For the love of God, don't touch him just yet.
just for those playing at home, the ball has been bounced up at Metricon Stadium, and I'm excited to see these teams tire the shit out of each other, so the Blues can maybe beat one of them this week on Friday. We got another question from Clarkey. Best trade target for Sicily owners, we've already talked about that, but this one, if you've held Gawn, Patch, if you've still got Gawn, do you stay the course or do you jump regardless?
Well, it depends on if he's back this week. If he's back this week, you obviously stay, because Tim English looking probably more likely to miss than not. And if Gawn's rucking against Jordan Sweet, even if he's on one leg and his back's out of joint and he's dislocated both shoulders, he's still going to score 120 minimum. And we probably don't have the trades to be fuffing around with him. But that said, if you keep him this week, you're probably committing to keeping him all year. That's a lot of cash that could be very useful. And Nick Natanui's in very good form. The Big O's kind of getting it done. I can see why you'd want to trade him out, but I don't know. Depends on your team, depends on how many trades you've got left, depends on a whole raft of factors. What are you going to do with the cash? This is not a very good answer, is it, for a supposed Supercoach expert to be like, it depends on your team, I suppose. I don't have any
I'll
advice.
simplify it for you. I'll simplify it for you.
Thank
Trade
you.
him. Trade him to Nick Nat-Nui or Todd Goldstein, whichever one you prefer.
Yeah, they're both very good players. Nick Nat, I'm still convinced will get a rest, despite the fact that he's had the bye. Todd Goldstein has a bye coming up, but it's the bye. It'll be a best 18 week. Only North Melbourne and Brisbane have that bye.
As long as you've got best 18, trade to one of those two players. If you want to stuff around with swings, bring a Laddams or a McInerney into your forward line. It's as simple as that, really. If you've got one of these bench guys, Draper, DeConing, it's good on you, but geez, I'm not relying on their score on field. I'll tell you that.
Goodness gracious me, no, not at all.
I was just going to go through one last question, and this one is both a troll question but also a serious question from Craig. Is Angus Brayshaw an M8 option?
Oh boy, yes. Yes, he is, actually, because in the last 2 weeks, he's been really good. He's had lots of time on ground. He's been at centre bounces. He's at 400k. And we've always known that he's been a good player. That year he had where he just sort of caught fire, came third in the Brownlow from absolutely nowhere. He had 113 against North, and this week against Collingwood in the D's, trouncing of them, really, he scored 131. And is he back? Is that what this is?
It's a good question. I don't really know. His centre bounce attendance has increased in each of those weeks, so it's clearly correlating with scores. And by the way, I'll just clarify why it's a troll question, because Craig, did you trade him, Angus Brayshaw, in our keeper league?
Yes, a keeper league I finally got sick of Angus Brayshaw. He'd scored 44, 71, 49, 56, and then I'm like, right, okay, I can just trade him away as a set of steak knives in a keeper league, and then he scored 91, and then 113, and now 131, and anyway, we're not going there. We're not going there.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it. We went there.
That's it. We went there. It's done. We can move on, please. In fact, another troll question we have, another troll question was, why do I bother doing this, from our good friend Rube? Why do we bother with this stupid game? And it's a good question. It distracts us from the gripping numbness of reality by the gripping numbness of your teams being bad and my team being bad.
I'm quietly having a fun this round, so I'm going to bring the positivity this week.
It's fun, but also everything is terrible, and this is something that's, even if it's terrible, it's not real, so it doesn't matter. You can just have fun, bring in your Brayshaws, bring in your Connor Rosies, enjoy yourself, community. Look after yourself. Give yourself the luxury of trading Gawn down to Koenig and upgrading someone to whoever else. I don't know. Go wild. Have fun. That's the important thing here. And if you win 50k along the way, then hey, maybe shout us a beer or something.
Yeah, I'd take a beer. I would also take 50k, but I'll take a beer. A beer's good.
Or 50 beers.
50 beers is good too. Community, you've been wonderful once again. Thanks to Telebeats, and shout out to Trigger Happy for his AFL-themed music parody band
wonderful
channel.
Stuff. Also, shout out to General Soreness, who, beloved community member, is currently sitting in third. We don't know how that'll go after everything is released, but we are riding him home for beers from that 50k that we hope he wins.
See you later, community.
What is this hub? Why do we have to fight or we stay inside? The home team gets an advantage. You don't like it? What is this AFL hub? We're off to Queensland. We caught the last fight and we face a bomb band. There's no hanky-panky. It means there's no sex.